Between 1974 and 1991, a serial killer stalked the streets of Wichita, Kansas. He called himself BTK, bind, torture, kill. For 17 years, he evaded one of the largest manhunts in American history, sending cryptic letters that mocked police and haunted the community. Then, in 2004, a single piece of evidence finally broke the case wide open. Welcome to the channel. January 15, 1974. Wichita, Kansas. 28-year-old Nancy Fox was brutally murdered in her home, found bound, tortured, and strangled in her bedroom. But here is what makes this case extraordinary. Nancy was not the BTK killer's first victim. She was merely the first he chose to kill after months of planning. Yet one detail doesn't fit. If this was his first murder, why did he demonstrate such precise, ritualistic methods? If this detail is true, then Dennis Rader had been planning his crimes for far longer than anyone realized. What drove a seemingly ordinary family man to become one of America's most calculating serial killers? In February 1974, just weeks after Nancy Fox's murder, the Wichita Police Department received a letter that would define the case for decades. The letter was signed with an acronym that would become infamous, BTK. The killer detailed his methods, how he bound his victims, how he tortured them, how he killed. He mocked police, claiming they would never catch him. Yet one detail doesn't fit. If he was writing to taunt police, why include specific details only the killer would know? If this detail is true, then the letters were meant not just to intimidate, but to establish a twisted form of control. Who was this man who craved attention while hiding in plain sight? March 17, 1977. The BTK killer struck again, this time targeting the Otero family. He bound husband Jose, wife Julie, and their 2 children. But here is what makes this night uniquely horrifying. Julie Otero was forced to watch as her husband and children were murdered before she was killed last. Yet one detail doesn't fit. If his goal was purely sadistic entertainment, why leave one witness alive for so long? If this detail is true, then every murder served a specific psychological purpose. What was Dennis Rader really seeking through these acts? By 1978, Wichita police realized they were dealing not with random violence, but with a serial killer following a precise methodology. Each victim was restrained with soft material, often neckties or stockings. Each was strangled. Each crime scene was deliberately left intact after the killing, as if the killer wanted police to find his work. Yet one detail doesn't fit. Why would someone so careful to leave evidence also send letters that could incriminate him? If this detail is true, then the BTK killer had a conflicting need: to be caught while also remaining free. How does a man's mind balance such contradictions? After 1977, something strange happened. The BTK killings stopped. For nearly 9 years, Wichita breathed a collective sigh of relief. The killer had either died, moved away, or simply stopped. But in 1986, he returned. Yet one detail doesn't fit. Why wait 9 years to kill again? If this detail is true, then something in his life had changed. Perhaps a trigger was reactivated. What had Dennis Rader been doing during those silent years? In 1986, BTK returned with a new victim, Kevin Bright. Then in 1987, he killed again, marine biologist Danny Reynolds. The methods remained identical: binding, torture, strangulation. But now the killer had evolved. He was more confident, more deliberate. Yet one detail doesn't fit. Why choose victims with such different backgrounds? If this detail is true, then the victims themselves were less important than the act itself. What drove this insatiable need? January 19, 1991. BTK killed his final known victim, Nancy O'Rourke. By now, Wichita had lived with this killer for nearly 2 decades. Yet one detail doesn't fit. After 1991, the killings stopped completely. If the killer was still alive and still dangerous, why stop? If this detail is true, then something fundamental had changed in Dennis Rader's life. What caused the sudden cessation? Even after the killings stopped, BTK continued to haunt Wichita. In 1994 and 2004, he sent new letters to media, including a packet containing a child's drawing and instructions for making a bomb. He was playing with police, testing their response. Yet one detail doesn't fit. If he wanted to remain free, why draw attention to himself? If this detail is true, then the attention itself was part of his compulsion. But here's the problem. The 2004 letter would contain the mistake that finally caught him. The 2004 letter came with something unexpected: a floppy disk. Police analyzed it and found a Microsoft Word document containing the phrase "bound torture kill." But here is where luck intervened. Forensic analysts discovered deleted files that revealed a vital clue. Yet one detail doesn't fit. Why would someone so careful about crime scenes be careless with digital evidence? If this detail is true, then Dennis Rader had grown overconfident. What would this oversight reveal? The deleted files contained writing that referenced a local church, Christ Lutheran Church in Wichita. The document was created by someone with access to that church's computer. Yet one detail doesn't fit. Why would a serial killer use a church computer? If this detail is true, then the killer was someone embedded in the community. Police now had a starting point. Who in Wichita had access to that church computer? February 2005. Police began surveillance of church members. They discovered Dennis Rader, a longtime Christ Lutheran Church Council president, married father of two, known in his neighborhood as a Cub Scout leader. Yet one detail doesn't fit. How could a pillar of the community also be one of America's most notorious serial killers? If this detail is true, then evil can wear the mask of normalcy. How did he hide in plain sight for so long? Police obtained DNA from Rader's daughter and compared it to evidence from the original crime scenes. The match was definitive. After 30 years, Wichita finally had their man. Yet one detail doesn't fit. If they had DNA evidence all along, why hadn't they caught him sooner? If this detail is true, then the technology simply didn't exist decades earlier. What other secrets did science hold? February 25, 2005. SWAT teams surrounded Dennis Rader's home. When officers announced themselves, Rader allegedly responded, "You have the right to remain silent." He was arrested without incident. Yet one detail doesn't fit. After 30 years of evading capture, why surrender so quietly? If this detail is true, then perhaps part of him wanted to be caught. What finally broke the silence? During his trial, Dennis Rader confessed to 10 murders, though investigators believe there may have been more. He showed no remorse, describing his crimes in clinical detail. In 2005, he received 10 consecutive life sentences. Yet one detail doesn't fit. Why did he continue to speak about his crimes even after conviction? If this detail is true, then the attention he craved never stopped mattering. What did he hope to achieve? Today, Dennis Rader remains incarcerated at the El Dorado Correctional Facility. The BTK case changed how Wichita thinks about evil, how it can wear a friendly face, attend church, lead scout troops. Yet one question remains unanswered. Were there more victims? Police continue to investigate, but here's the problem: the complete truth may never be known. If the truth stays buried, then some questions will haunt Wichita forever. What other secrets died with Dennis Rader? The BTK case reminds us that justice can take decades, but it always arrives. Subscribe for more cold case investigations and join us as we unravel more mysteries that time tried to bury. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share this video.